Hey everyone! Tonight, we're starting with something gritty, something harsh, something Hollywood has never gotten right. We're stepping into the life of a medieval archer, those men who stood ankle deep in mud, their fingers hardened like old rope, their backs permanently bent, sending death arcing through the air. Forget the polished myths of Robin Hood or the heroic scenes you see on screen. The reality is that being an archer in the Middle Ages was a slow, relentless breakdown of your body, your mind, and whatever small hopes you ever had for a gentler life. Before we settle in, take a moment to like the video if you enjoy these quiet, late-night dives into the past, and let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is for you. It's always amazing watching our nighttime community gather from every corner of the world to share these softer stories. So dim the lights, get comfortable, let everything around you ease into stillness. Because tonight, we're drifting into a chapter of history shaped not by kings or heroes, but by thousands of ordinary men who were turned into weapons long before they ever saw a battlefield. The medieval archers who paid for England's victories with their own bodies and slipped into forgotten graves as the world moved on without them. You never choose this life. The decision is made for you long before you're old enough to understand what war even is, long before you realize that your body will be bent and twisted in service of a king who'll never know your name. Imagine this. You're born somewhere in England in the late 1200s. The exact year doesn't matter. You can't read or write, and the only calendar you know is when it's time to plant, when it's time to harvest, and when winter is coming. Your house is a rough wooden hut with a thatched roof that leaks when it rains and turns into an oven when the sun is high. The floor is packed dirt, which becomes muck whenever the weather turns ugly. Everyone sleeps on straw piles that rustle and crunch every time someone shifts. Fleas, lice, and the occasional rat are simply part of the night. Your father works land that doesn't belong to him, breaking his body for a lord he'll never speak to. Your mother grows old far too quickly. Childbirth, hunger, endless work wearing her down year after year. You have siblings, but not all of them make it through their first winter. Some are lost to the cold, some to sickness, some simply to lack of food. But you endure. Maybe you're strong, maybe you're lucky, maybe you're just stubborn enough to stay alive. Your childhood isn't shaped by toys or free afternoons. By the age of 5, you're working. You feed chickens, carry water, pick stones out of the soil until your tiny hands crack and bleed. You learn early that life is a grind, comfort is rare, and complaining doesn't help anyone. Your only escape is through stories. Traveling bards pass through now and then, spinning tales of shining armor, brave knights, noble quests, images so far from your life that they feel like pictures from another world. You imagine yourself as one of them, riding a great horse gleaming in steel, earning the respect of all who see you. But deep down, you know the truth. Knights come from noble blood. You come from mud, sweat, and a father who owns nothing but the clothes on his back. And then, everything shifts when you turn 7. Not because you asked for it, but because your fate was written into law before you were even born. Parliament demands that every able-bodied male learn the longbow, not for sport, not for recreation, for war. The king needs archers, thousands of them, ready to send a storm of arrows across a battlefield at a moment's notice. So every Sunday after church, the boys of the village are marched to the butts, the practice ground where your transformation begins. You're 7 years old, barely tall enough to reach your father's belt, when they place a bow in your hands. It's a small training bow, but still heavy for you. The first time you try to draw it, the string cuts into your fingers, and you can't pull it far. Your arms shake, your face burns red, the older boys snicker, and the men watch without sympathy. Again, they say, always again. You keep trying until blisters form, then the blisters break. Then calluses grow so thick your fingertips barely feel anything at all. Your shoulders ache with a deep fire that lingers even in sleep. Your back grows stiff, your muscles strain in ways no child should, but the law doesn't care. Skipping practice means fines your family can't pay, or a day locked in the stocks for the whole village to mock. And so, the training grinds on. Every Sunday, rain or heat, sickness or fatigue, you stand in line with the other boys, sending arrow after arrow into straw targets until your arms refuse to steady and your eyes blur. There's no encouragement, no gentle teaching. No one wonders if you're okay. This is England in the Middle Ages. Kindness is a luxury no one has time for. You learn through failure, repetition, and the sharp crack of a stick tapping your shoulders to correct your stance. Back straight, elbow up, draw to the ear. Again. The other boys become comrades in misery. Words are few, energy is precious, but you see the same exhaustion in their faces. Some boys are naturals, some barely manage. You fall somewhere in between, just another peasant boy slowly being reshaped into a tool of war. By 10, you can hit a target 50 yards out. Your body has already begun to change. Your left arm thickens. Your back muscles develop unevenly. Your spine starts to bend, slowly, subtly, under the growing strain. You don't notice yet. You're focused on surviving one day to the next. But the adults see it. When the village healer examines your shoulder after an injury, he feels the odd shape of your back and simply says, "Archer's body," as if that explains everything. As if warping a child's skeleton is normal. Your parents say nothing. What could they say? It's the law. It's the world you were born into. By 12, the child's bow is taken away. You're handed a real longbow, nearly your height, carved from yew, with a draw weight so powerful it could injure a grown man. The first time you pull it, something tears deep in your shoulder. The pain is sharp and hot, nearly dropping you to your knees. No one reacts. Again, they tell you. So you pull again and again and again. The pain becomes part of you. The training becomes brutal. It's no longer just accuracy. It's speed, endurance, and the ability to fire without hesitation or mercy. They make you build strength any way they can, hauling stones, dragging sacks of grain, chopping wood until the skin of your palms splits. You are no longer just learning a skill. You are being rebuilt, piece by piece, into a weapon. Every muscle in your body is being shaped for one purpose. You're being groomed for the day when you'll stand in the mud of a battlefield, shooting until your fingers split open and your shoulders feel like they're being ripped out of their sockets. The bow slowly becomes part of you. You sleep with it beside you, its string wrapped in oiled cloth to keep it from turning brittle. You start to sense the weather in the wood itself, how a rise in humidity will change a shot, how the slightest wind can twist an arrow's path. Deep grooves form on your fingers where the string rests, permanent channels in your skin that will stay with you for life. The calluses grow until you can barely feel anything. You can touch fire and not flinch, press a needle into your fingertip and barely notice it pierce the flesh. Your left arm swells with thick, heavy muscle. The bones themselves grow denser, reacting to years of strain. Your right arm stays almost normal, and the difference between them looks unnatural, like you've been built wrong. Your spine continues to twist, pulled out of shape by years of drawing a bow that was never meant for a child. Bony knots grow along your shoulders and elbows, calcium deposits where tendons have been stressed, torn, and forced to heal over and over again. When you're 14, the village healer examines you again. His hands move down your back, his face tightening. He tells you you'll be crippled by 30 if you live that long. You don't say anything because there's nothing to say. This is the life England has chosen for you, and you accepted it long before you understood what it meant. But the training only gets harsher. You're no longer simply practicing archery. You're being taught how to kill. They set up straw figures shaped like men and tell you to imagine real faces on them, imaginary enemies who want to burn your village, hurt your family, defy your king. They teach you to aim for the soft spots in armor, the hidden places where an arrow can slip through flesh and bone. The throat, the armpit, the eye. You learn that killing isn't instinct, it's a craft. It takes repetition, control, and the ability to shut down the part of your mind that hesitates. By the time you hit 15, you can shoot a dozen arrows in 60 seconds, each one fast and clean enough to punch through chainmail from 200 yards away. You've become exactly what they wanted, a living weapon, forged through years of pain and discipline, capable of letting death fall from the sky without pausing to think. But your body pays for every arrow. You walk with a faint limp now because your crooked spine has thrown your hip out of alignment. Your shoulders ache constantly with deep, grinding pain that never really leaves you. Your hands are stiff and swollen, the knuckles enlarged from years of gripping a bow. At 15, you already move like someone twice your age. Your childhood is long gone. 8 straight years of training have shaped you into something you never asked to be. And now you're ready. Ready for what, you're not sure, but you can feel it coming. The adults speak in whispers. The Lord's soldiers ride through more often, their eyes scanning the older boys with cold calculation. War is on the horizon. It's always on the horizon. There's a girl in your village, Emma. She's been promised to you since you were both children. Not because of love, but because it's practical. Your families need that arrangement. But you've grown up side by side, and familiarity has its own comfort. She's learned to be gentle in a world that rarely rewards gentleness. She doesn't dream beyond her station, doesn't complain, doesn't wish for anything she'll never have. She carries the same quiet acceptance that everyone in your village carries like a second skin. You talk sometimes whenever chores allow a moment. She asks about your training, and you lie, telling her it's manageable, even though your whole body aches. She talks about baking bread, feeding animals, the little bits of gossip she hears. It's ordinary, it's small, and it's the only piece of normal life you have left. You decide that when you return from your first campaign, you'll marry her, build a home, raise children, grow old in the same patch of earth where you were born. It's not a heroic dream, but it's yours. And you cling to it because deep down you know once you walk into war, nothing about you will ever be the same. When you're 17, they finally come for you. The king's recruiters arrive just after dawn, their horses splashing through puddles, their faces set with cold purpose. They carry a list of names, and yours is on it. You expected it. You've been preparing for this moment for years, but expecting it doesn't make it any easier when it happens. Your mother cries. Your father stands rigid with clenched fists, his silence louder than any words. Your younger siblings stare with round, frightened eyes, unable to grasp what's happening, but knowing it's something heavy. Emma finds you just before you leave. She slips a small cloth bundle into your hand. Inside is a piece of stale bread, everything she could spare. She doesn't speak. She just looks at you, her eyes filled with fear and sadness, and acceptance all at once. You want to promise you'll return. You want to swear you'll come back for her. But the words won't come because you don't know if you can keep them. So you just nod, tuck the bread away, and turn before she can see your tears. Then the march begins. You fall in line with other men, some from your village, others from nearby towns. Most are young like you, full of nervous energy, but the seasoned fighters stand out instantly. Older men with scars, missing fingers, missing eyes. Men who've lived through battles and somehow kept breathing, though many of them look like survival isn't the blessing it's supposed to be. You walk mile after mile, sometimes 20 a day. Your boots are little more than thin leather socks. Stones slice through them, roots bruise your feet. Within a week, blisters erupt across your heels and toes. They burst, bleed, harden, then blister again. You carry everything you own on your back, your longbow wrapped in oiled cloth, a handful of arrows, a knife, a ragged blanket, a leaky water skin, and Emma's bread. The weight drags at your shoulders and grinds into your hips. Every step hurts. But stopping isn't an option. Anyone who falls behind is abandoned, and the abandoned do not survive. Food is whatever you can get. Rock-hard bread that cracks your teeth. Salted meat so tough you wonder if it's really meat at all. Thin gruel that tastes like dirty water. If you're lucky, a piece of cheese so sour it makes your stomach turn. But hunger is stronger than disgust. Water is even worse. You drink from streams that run cloudy with mud. from puddles in the road, from ditches where animals drink. Dysentery hits the camp fast. Men collapse where they stand, too weak to reach the latrine pits. The smell is suffocating, a thick, sour stench that clings to your hair and clothes. Some men die from it, writhing on the side of the road. The army marches on. No burials, no prayers. The dead are simply left behind to rot in the open. You learn to sleep anywhere, on soaked ground, in rain, in mud, surrounded by the coughing and groaning of sick men. You sleep with your hand gripping your bow, because if someone steals it, you're finished. Rain becomes an enemy of its own. It soaks you to the bone, chills you until your teeth chatter, and ruins your bowstring unless you keep it against your skin, warming it with your own body heat. Your health starts to crumble. Constant marching wears down your joints. Your legs cramp, your back spasms. A deep cough settles in your chest, thickening your breath with blood-speckled phlegm. But you march anyway. There's no alternative. The veterans teach you everything they can, how to wrap your feet to slow the blisters, how to find dry wood even after 3 days of rain, which mushrooms won't kill you, like someone scooped out something vital inside you and left it on that battlefield. That night, sleep won't come. Every time you close your eyes, the images return. The arc of arrows in the sky, bodies crumpling, faces slack with terror. You hear the screams, the thud of arrows punching into flesh, the choking sounds of men drowning in their own blood. You think of Emma waiting for you back home. You wonder what she'd say if she saw you now, caked in mud and blood, hands torn to ribbons, eyes empty. You promised yourself you'd marry her when you returned. Now you're not sure there's enough of you left for a future with anyone. When dawn breaks, the real work begins. The battlefield needs to be cleared, and that means taking whatever you can from the dead. The captain doesn't soften it. This is your pay. The king's coffers are empty. Wages are delayed, maybe forever. If you want to eat, you salvage. That's your right. They call it salvage, not looting, but the word doesn't matter when you're kneeling in cold mud, going through a dead man's pockets while trying not to look at his face. You start with the bodies nearest you. The veterans have already taken the good stuff during the night, but scraps remain. A bent coin, a leather pouch, a knife with a chipped blade. It's not much, but it's something. You find a pair of boots on one corpse, better than the ones on your feet. Too big, soaked in blood, but still intact. You pull them off his legs, trying not to imagine who he was, whether someone waits for him at home. Doesn't matter. The boots belong to you now. You move from body to body, hands working automatically, mind shutting off to keep from breaking. You find a ring on a severed finger. You don't bother sliding it off. You take the whole finger and toss it into your pack. You'll deal with it later. A sword half buried in mud catches your eye. It's worth more than a year's pay if you can sell it. You wipe it down, wrap it in cloth and strap it to your back. You open a pouch and find 3 coins and a wedding ring. You pocket the coins, then stare at the ring for a long moment. It's plain, simple. The kind a poor man gives the woman he loves. You wonder if she knows he's gone, if she'll ever know. You keep the ring, not because you want it, but because leaving it behind feels like abandoning him twice. The veterans move quickly, stripping armor, collecting weapons, laughing crudely as they work. Jokes roll off their tongues as if they're not surrounded by death. Maybe they need the laughter to stay sane. You don't laugh. You can't. Every body you search feels like a sin. But hunger wins, and you haven't eaten a real meal in days. By midday, your pack is crammed with whatever you could take, more than you can carry, but you can't let anything go. Every item is another sunset you get to see, another day you might live. The captain inspects the hall, taking his portion for the officers. No one complains. Men with rank always take their cut. What's left gets divided among the soldiers. You keep only a small part of what you gathered, a few coins, a decent knife, the boots. It's not much, but it's more than you had yesterday. That night, you sit by the fire, cleaning the items you salvaged. The boots are stiff with dried blood, and you scrub them until your hands ache. You pull out the wedding ring. You turn it between your fingers, feeling the tiny weight of it. There's an inscription inside, faint and worn. You can just make out a single word. Forever. You slip the ring into your pocket beside the piece of bread Emma gave you. It feels like you're carrying two worlds with you, one soft and safe, one forged in blood and fire. You don't know which world you belong to anymore. The war doesn't stop. It never does. One battle fades into the next, then another and another. Weeks slide into months, months stretch into years. You march, you fight, you loot, you survive. The seasons change, but nothing else does. Winter brings freezing rain and ice that numbs your feet and turns your fingers blue. Spring brings mud so deep it swallows men whole. Summer brings heat thick with flies and sickness. Autumn brings the promise that another winter is coming. Time slips away from you. Days smear together until you can't tell them apart. You don't know what month it is, or even what year. You don't know your age anymore. 20, 25, it doesn't matter. Out here, age is measured in scars. Your body keeps breaking down, one piece at a time. The injuries stack up, each leaving something behind. A cut that never healed right, the flesh still oozing days later. A shoulder that grinds every time you lift it. Fingers that go numb every time the cold touches them. The blood flow strangled after years of pulling a bowstring. Purple blotches spread across your fingertips. The healer calls it gangrene, says he can cut them off. You refuse. You need them. How to sleep with your eyes half open so no one thinks you're vulnerable. They teach you what battle really is, the sounds, the stench, the chaos. They tell you how men scream when they die, how they beg for their mothers, how fear turns bowels to water. They warn you that the first battle will feel like your soul is trying to escape your body, that every instinct will scream at you to run. But you won't, because desertion means death. They tell you if you survive the first fight, the next will be less terrifying, not easier, but less shocking. You'll learn to silence the part of you that feels anything at all. You'll start to understand what they mean when they say war changes a person. The boy who left home will not be the one who returns, if he returns at all. The battlefield is nothing like the stories. There's no shining armor, no brave speeches, no noble duels, just mud, blood, and the wails of dying men. You arrive at dawn, under a sky the color of old ash, the air heavy with fog. The enemy is already gathered across the field, a dark, shapeless mass moving behind the mist. You can't see faces, just a shifting wall of bodies. Your captain shouts orders, lining the archers up in long rows. You step into position beside men you barely know. Your hands tremble. You try to steady them, but fear is already inside you, cold and coiled in your gut. The older fighters stand calm, their expressions empty. They've lived this moment before. You haven't. The command comes to ready arrows. Your fingers fumble for the shaft. You knock it to the string. The fletching is wet from dew, and you worry it will warp the flight, but there's no time to adjust. The enemy begins to move, slowly at first, then faster. And now you can hear them. The ground shakes with the pounding of boots, armor clattering, voices roaring in a rising tide of war. They're coming for you, and there's nowhere to run. "Draw!" the captain yells. You pull the bowstring back to your ear, every muscle in your arm screaming. The bow feels heavier than it ever has, the draw weight, crushing your strength. You angle the bow upward, just like you were trained, so the arrows will fall from the sky in a deadly storm, loose. The string snaps forward, the arrow leaps free, climbing high before it curves into the swarm of enemy bodies. It joins hundreds of others, a dark cloud of death raining down. There's no time to watch it land. Your hand is already reaching for another shaft. You don't think. You don't hesitate. Your body runs on instinct. Knock, draw, loose, knock, draw, loose, again and again. A mechanical rhythm that smothers every other sound, every fear, every scream around you. Somewhere out there, your arrows are ripping into men, dropping them where they stand. You don't see any of it. All you see is the next arrow, the next breath, the next pull of the string. Your fingers split open. Years of thick calluses tear away under the relentless scrape of the bowstring. Blood streaks your hand and slicks your grip, but you keep firing. There's no stopping. There can't be stopping. The enemy slams into your line. The archers fall back as the infantry surges forward with their shield wall and bristling spears. You keep shooting over their heads, aiming into the crush of bodies pushing forward in a blind wave of fury. An arrow hisses past your ear so close you feel the wind of its passing. You flinch on instinct, but your hands keep working. Another arrow slams into the man beside you, punching straight through his throat. He drops without a sound, blood spraying in a violent burst. You step over his body and keep shooting. The battle dissolves into a blur. Time stops meaning anything. You can't tell if you've been fighting for 10 minutes or half a day. Your arms go numb. Your shoulders burn like fire. Your vision narrows into a tight tunnel, centered only on your next shot. Then suddenly, it's done. The enemy breaks, stumbling back in a ragged retreat. Their dead carpet the ground. The captain calls for a ceasefire, and you lower your bow, your arms shaking so hard you can barely hold it. For the first time you truly see the field. The earth is torn apart, mud churned into thick red sludge. Bodies lie everywhere, twisted, shattered, frozen in expressions of agony. Some aren't dead yet. They crawl, whimpering, reaching out with broken fingers for help that won't come. Then the smell hits you, a suffocating mix of blood, flesh, and death, thick enough to taste. Your stomach lurches. You turn away and vomit, but there's nothing in your belly. Only bile burns up your throat. Your hands drip with blood, your own blood, from the torn skin and ripped flesh of your fingers. You stare at them, stunned. They barely look human, more like raw meat than hands meant to hold anything gentle. A veteran claps your shoulder. You did good, boy. Still alive? You nod, but you don't feel alive. You feel hollow. Without your fingers, you can't draw a bow. Without a bow, you're nothing. So you accept the pain, the numbness, and the fear that one day you'll wake up to find them black and dead. Battles become predictable. You know the rhythm now, the charge, the clash, the retreat, the aftermath. You learn how to shut your feelings down completely. Your hands fire arrows like a machine, no hesitation, no emotion. But burying your feelings doesn't make them disappear. They rot inside you, like an untreated wound. And in the quiet moments, they rise again. You think of home, your family, your village, Emma. You wonder if they're alive, if they even remember you, if they're still waiting. Letters never reach you. The army moves too fast, too far. And even if a letter somehow found its way, you couldn't read it anyway. That leaves you with nothing but memories, and even those are slipping through your fingers. You try to picture Emma's face, but it's fading. The color of her eyes, the sound of her laugh, the way she smelled faintly of bread and firewood. You're losing all of it. You're terrified that if you ever make it back, you won't know her. Or worse, she won't know you. The campaigns never stop. You fight in France, in Scotland, in Wales. You march through forests, over mountains, through swamps. You sleep in ditches, in abandoned barns, in the blackened ruins of burned villages. You witness things that carve themselves into your mind forever. Entire towns reduced to ash. Families slaughtered. Women and children left where they fell. Prisoners executed, their heads raised on pikes to make a point. You take part in some of it, not because you want to, but because stopping it would make you the next target. You tell yourself you're doing what you need to survive. But deep down, you know you're lying. You're not innocent. You're part of the machine, and the guilt gnaws at you piece by piece. One night you camp beside a river. The water is cold and clear, and you strip down and wade in, desperate to wash away the filth, the stink, the blood crusted on your skin. You scrub until your skin burns, but nothing comes off. The dirt feels permanent, like it's sunk beneath the surface, like it's part of you now. You sit on the shore, naked and shaking, and you cry, not from sadness, but from emptiness. You feel hollow, carved out from the inside. A veteran finds you like that. He doesn't speak at first. He just sits next to you and hands you a flask. You drink. The alcohol burns like fire down your throat, and for a moment that pain is the only thing that feels real. It never gets easier, he says quietly. You just stop noticing. You nod. Because he's right. You're already changing. The killing, the endless marching, the dying, it's all starting to feel normal. And that terrifies you more than anything else. Not every fight is from a distance. Sometimes the enemy reaches you. Sometimes your arrows run out. Sometimes you have to kill with whatever is left in your hands. It happens during a siege. You're positioned on a hillside, firing into the mass of soldiers trying to break through the castle walls. You've been shooting for hours. Your arms ache. Your quiver is nearly empty. Then the enemy cavalry breaks through the line. They're thundering straight toward you, blades flashing. You reach for another arrow, but your quiver is empty. You glance around, desperate for a fallen archer's quiver, but there's no time. They're coming too fast. You drop your bow and pull out your knife. It's tiny, more suited for cutting rope than killing a man, but it's all you have. The first rider reaches you. He's young, your age, maybe younger, dressed in cheap leather armor, a helmet too big for him. A squire, not a knight. That gives you a sliver of hope. He swings wildly. You dodge, but not fast enough. His blade slices your cheek open from ear to jaw. Blood pours into your mouth, hot and metallic. Instinct takes over. You shove forward under his arm and drive your knife into his throat. The blade finds the vulnerable gap between helmet and collar. His eyes go wide. He chokes, trying to pull away, but your hand clamps on the knife, twisting it. His blood floods over your fingers. He falls off his horse. You fall with him. You land hard, but you don't stop. You stab him again, and again, and again, long after he stops moving. When you finally pull yourself off him, you're drenched in his blood. It's in your eyes, your mouth, your hair. You can taste it, metallic and bitter. He's even younger than you thought. Maybe 17, maybe less. He looks like he should be tending livestock somewhere, not lying dead with your knife in his neck. You wonder if someone's waiting for him, if he had a girl he promised to come back to, if he was scared. You'll never know. And it doesn't matter. He's dead. You're not. That's the only truth that counts now. Your hands tremble as you wipe your face. The battle rages on around you, but the cavalry charge is broken. You grab your bow again, steal arrows from fallen soldiers, and return to your post. Your heart slams in your chest, your breath coming in ragged gasps, but you draw and fire because that's all you know how to do. That night you can't sleep. Every time you close your eyes, you see his face, the shock in his eyes, the bubbling blood at his lips, the moment he went limp beneath your hands. You killed him up close. You felt his life go out, and the worst part isn't the killing. The worst part is that you don't feel guilty. You feel nothing, just cold, empty numbness. You're becoming exactly what they want, a weapon, not a man. Something that kills without hesitation or mercy. And you don't know how to stop it. Injuries are inevitable. You've avoided the worst so far, but luck always runs out. It happens during a skirmish. An enemy archer's shot catches you high in the thigh. The chainmail you stole from a fallen knight saves your life. It stops the arrow from plunging deep, but it still rips through muscle. Pain explodes down your leg. You yank the arrow out yourself, teeth clench so hard your jaw aches. Blood spills down your leg warm and fast. You know you need help. The healer's tent is a nightmare, a place filled with screams and the metallic smell of blood. Men lie everywhere, writhing, dying, begging. Infection hangs in the air like smoke. The healer is an old man with cracked hands and eyes that look like they haven't closed in days. He works with the exhaustion of someone who's seen this for decades, patching men just enough to send them back into hell. He inspects your wound with rough, clinical motions. You're lucky, he tells you. The arrow didn't go in deep, but if he doesn't clean the wound right now, it'll rot. He pours wine straight onto the gash, and you clamp your teeth on a strip of leather so you don't scream loud enough to wake the whole camp. The burn is blinding, like someone shoved fire into your leg, and tears spill down your face whether you want them to or not. When the stinging finally dulls, he stuffs the wound with honey. Thick, sticky, supposed to fight infection. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it only buys time before things get worse. Then he wraps your thigh in a grimy bit of linen and tells you to stay off the leg for a few days. You nod, even though you already know you won't. The army doesn't slow down for anyone. You limp away, every step a pounding throb, and collapse on your bedroll, wondering how much more punishment your body can survive. The wound doesn't heal right. The skin around it swells, burns, and reddens. You can feel heat pouring off it. You dump more wine on it, smear on more honey, and pray. But within a week the infection settles in deep. Pus leaks from the gash. The flesh darkens, turning sickly and dead-looking. Gangrene. One look and the healer sighs. "We have to cut the rot out," he says, "or you'll lose the whole leg." You don't argue. What choice is there? He heats a blade in the fire until it glows, then presses it to your skin and cuts away the blackened flesh. You scream until your voice gives out. It's a pain so bright and violent it swallows everything else, your vision, your thoughts, your breath. When he's finished, you're shaking uncontrollably, soaked in sweat. He packs the wound again, this time with a foul-smelling paste made from herbs mixed with dung. He says it draws out infection. You don't know if he's right, but somehow you live. Eventually the wound closes, leaving behind a thick, ugly scar that tugs in the cold. But you're alive. And in this life, that's the only thing that matters. You think about home constantly. It's the only thing that keeps you moving, the one faint light in all this darkness. But even home feels unreal now, a memory you can't quite touch. You wonder if Emma still waits for you. Years have passed since you left. Years with no word from you, no letter, no sign you're still in this world. Messages never reach the front. The army is always moving, always shifting. And even if they did, you couldn't read them. All you have is hope, and hope feels fragile. Sometimes you hear stories of soldiers who finally returned, only to find their wives remarried, their children strangers, their lives replaced by someone else. You tell yourself not to think about it. But in the quiet hours when the camp goes still and your thoughts have nowhere to hide, the fear creeps in anyway. What if she's gone? What if she believes you're dead? What if she found someone who could give her the life you never could? You tell yourself you'll deal with it when the time comes. But the truth is it terrifies you. Because if she isn't there, if home is gone, then what was all this for? One night, a soldier who can read and write offers to send a letter for a price. You give him a coin you stole from a corpse, and he sets down a bit of parchment. You start with "Dear Emma," and then nothing. What can you even say? How do you explain everything you've seen, everything you've done, everything you've become? You settle on the simplest truth you can manage. "I'm alive. I'm coming home. Wait for me." He seals the letter, swears he'll send it with the next caravan. You don't know if it will reach her. You don't know if she's even alive, but the letter becomes a thread, thin, fragile, connecting you to the life you once had. You cling to it with everything you have. Years pass. You stop counting. The war becomes your world. March, fight, survive, repeat. Your body crumbles piece by piece. Every wound leaves something weaker behind. Your left arm swells into a grotesque mass of muscle from years of drawing the bow. Your spine bends forward, pulling your shoulders down so far that standing straight is a struggle. Your fingers twist into rigid, claw-like shapes. The grooves where the bowstring rested are carved so deep you can see bone through the skin. The joints swell, the pain never leaves. Your hands barely look human anymore. You cough constantly, a deep, rattling cough that brings up blood. The healer says your lungs are ruined from smoke and dust and years of breathing battlefields. You're only 27, but you feel older than your father ever did. The younger soldiers stare at you with a mixture of awe and sorrow. You're one of the rare few who survived long enough to be called a veteran, but every year you lived took something from you, and your body shows the bill. You train new recruits sometimes, teach them how to pull a bow until their hands crack and bleed. You remember being that young, that desperate to prove yourself. You remember thinking war would make you a hero. You want to tell them the truth. That war doesn't make anyone a hero. It breaks you. It steals everything. But they wouldn't listen even if you said it. No one believes until it's too late. You fight in endless battles with names you can't pronounce and don't care to remember. You kill men you'll forget by morning. You strip their bodies for anything useful without hesitation. It's routine now, mechanical. You've become exactly what the army wanted, a tool, empty and efficient. But at night, alone in your tent, you wonder whether anything remains of the boy you used to be, the one who dreamed of knighthood, who made promises to Emma, who believed life held something more than survival. You suspect he died years ago in the mud somewhere, and all that's left is this shell of a man, going through the motions and waiting for the end. You dream of home, not the real one, but a perfect one built in your mind. In those dreams, Emma waits for you, unchanged and smiling. She runs to you, and the world feels whole again. But every morning you wake to mud and blood and cold, and realize home is just a memory, and memories fade. You wonder who will still be alive when you return. Your parents? Your siblings? Emma? Will she even know you? Will you know her? The village could be entirely different now, or maybe it's the same and you're the one who's too changed to fit back in. You imagine what life will be like when the war finally releases you. You picture marrying Emma, building a home, raising children, living quietly, never touching a bow again. It's a beautiful dream, but you know dreams don't hold against reality. Even if you return, even if she waits, the war will still be lodged inside you like shrapnel. You'll wake in the night reaching for a weapon. You'll jump at noises, see threats where there are none. Your sleep will be filled with blood and shadows, and Emma will look at you with fear, because the man who left isn't the man who came back. You know how it goes. You've seen the veterans who returned before you, drunk, angry, isolated, unable to hold on to anything. You know that fate is waiting for you, but you cling to the dream anyway. Without it, there's nothing left, just marching, fighting and dying, and you're not ready to give up. When you're 40, the summons finally stop. You're too old, too broken, too used up to be of any use. Younger bodies replace yours, and you're discarded like a worn-out tool. You limp back to the village, legs barely cooperating, your whole body twisted from years of strain. Your left arm bulges unnaturally, your spine bends so sharply you can't look someone straight in the eye. You look like a man built from scars and pain. Emma never complains. She cares for you with a tenderness you don't deserve. She cooks. She dresses your wounds. She supports your crooked frame without a word of resentment. You feel unworthy of every kindness she offers. You have 3 children, 2 sons and a daughter. You weren't there when any of them were born. Each time the army dragged you back for one more campaign, one more winter of killing. When you finally returned and saw the new baby, you didn't know whether to be happy or horrified. Your feelings had eroded so completely that numbness was all you could manage. As the boys grow, the law requires them to train with the bow. You watch them struggle the same way you once did, and it breaks something in you. You want to protect them from the life you lived, but you can't. So you teach them the only way you know, harsh, painful, relentless, hoping it will keep them alive one day. But deep down, you know it won't. They'll break too. They'll suffer. Maybe they'll come home half of what they were. Maybe they won't come home at all. And there's nothing you can do. The war never leaves you. Even in peace, it follows you like a shadow. Every night you dream of blood, of battlefields, of the men whose lives you stole. The squire's face haunts you most. The boy you killed up close, the shock in his eyes, the fear, the way his body sagged when his life ran out. You wake shouting, soaked in sweat, heart racing. Emma tries to soothe you, but you push her away because you can't let her see the broken, violent thing you've become. During the day you're restless, always on edge. A slammed door makes you flinch. A sudden movement makes your hand jerk for a weapon that isn't there. You can't relax. Some part of you still lives in the chaos of the battlefield. You try numbing the memories with drink, ale, wine, anything. It helps for a little while, muffles the ghosts, softens the nightmares, but it twists you too, makes you angry, wild, unpredictable. You start picking fights over nothing, a joke, a glance, a word taken wrong. People learn to stay clear of you. You become the village drunk, the broken old soldier no one knows how to help, pitied by some, feared by others. Children scatter when you walk by. Women step off the road to avoid you. Even Emma sometimes watches you with a look that feels like fear, and it breaks you inside. You hate what you've become, what the war carved into you, yet you have no idea how to undo it. You don't know how to be anything else anymore. The priests insist it's divine punishment, that your suffering is repayment for your sins. Neighbors whisper about curses and dark marks left on your soul. Maybe they're right. Maybe you really are cursed. Maybe the ghosts of the men you killed have attached themselves to you, trailing you, waiting for their moment to settle the debt. After a while you start believing it. You catch glimpses of them in the corners of rooms, in the shifting dusk. You hear their voices riding the wind, calling your name, accusing you. You feel your mind slipping piece by piece, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. By the time you reach 50, your body finally collapses. Not in a battle, not with a bow drawn in your hands, but in a damp room on a hard bed, surrounded by people who barely share memories with you. Your lungs have been failing for years, each cough tearing you apart. Your heart is worn down from decades of strain. Your joints are so stiff and swollen you can hardly move. You lie there staring at the ceiling, drifting through the memories of your life. The boy you once were, the man the war forced you to be, the choices you made and can never take back. You remember the fights, the blood, the endless march of days that never seem to end. You remember the men you killed, the faces stamped permanently into your mind. You think about Emma, about your children, about the life you tried to build, but never fully managed to hold together. You think about the bow, the tool that defined you, shaped your days, and ultimately broke you. You wish you could lift it one more time, feel its weight in your palms, the pull of the string. But your hands are too frail now. You can't even curl your fingers into a fist. Emma sits beside you, holding your hand. She's crying, and you want to comfort her, but you no longer have the strength. Your children stand near the foot of the bed, awkward and uncertain. They don't know what to say, how to grieve a father they never truly knew. You search for something meaningful to leave them with, some truth, some final thread of wisdom, but nothing comes. So you let your eyes fall shut, and you release your last breath. Your death is quiet, ordinary. No ceremony, no celebration, just a body that finally gives in. They bury you behind the church with the other forgotten men. No headstone, no marker, only a small mound of dirt that will slowly sink and disappear with time. No one remembers your name. No one repeats stories about you. You're just another archer, another life swallowed by a war that ended centuries ago. But your bones stay behind. Long after your world is gone, archaeologists will uncover them, examine them, and study the strange marks time left on you. The overbuilt left arm, the bent spine, the deep grooves worn into your finger joints. They'll understand exactly what you were. An archer, a human weapon, a man who sacrificed everything for a king who never even learned your name. And maybe, in a small way, that's the closest thing to recognition you'll ever get. The longbow eventually disappears from the battlefield, replaced by crossbows, then muskets, then rifles, cannons, and all the machinery of modern war. Archery survives only as sport, something for nobles, hobbyists, and reenactors. A relic of a world long gone. The men who once drew those massive bows, who trained from childhood until their bodies warped, who gave their strength and their lives, those men fade into the background of history, buried in unmarked graves, their stories dissolved by time. But their bones remain. Across England, archaeologists find their skeletons again and again, bodies shaped by discipline and hardship. One arm noticeably larger than the other, spines twisted from years of uneven strain, finger joints polished smooth by endless friction. These were the archers, the forgotten soldiers who stood knee-deep in mud and sent storms of arrows into the sky, who marched until their feet split open, who fought until their bodies gave out, who died without anyone to mourn them. They weren't heroes. They weren't noble warriors. They were peasants, forced into service by laws they had no voice in, boys trained from childhood to become instruments of war, men used until they broke and then tossed aside when they stopped being useful. Their lives were harsh, short, and filled with pain. They knew nothing of honor or reward or glory, only the grinding routine of war, the constant brush with death and the slow destruction of their bodies. And still, they endured. They kept going, and in their own quiet, brutal way, they helped shape history. The battles they won and the wars they fought altered the paths of nations. The longbow was one of the deadliest weapons of the medieval world, and England's power on the battlefield existed because of the men who pulled its string. But that power had a price paid in bone, blood, and lives that were never valued. So when you imagine a medieval archer, don't picture Robin Hood or heroic fantasies. Picture the reality. Think of the boys whose bodies were molded by years of punishing training. Think of the men who marched until their legs gave out, who fought until they couldn't lift their arms, who came home broken, if they came home at all. Remember what it cost them. Remember that glory is a story told by people who never had to pay the bill. The life of a medieval archer wasn't romantic. It wasn't glorious. It was misery dressed as duty. And now, as the fire burns low and the night settles in around you, the truth sits plainly before you. You finally understand what it meant to stand in those fields, to draw that bow, to live that life. Rest easy tonight, knowing you'll never have to endure what they endured, because they carried that burden for you.